I will not apologize for my opinions on this one. Pokémon Scarlet and Violet have the best story in any Pokémon game. There is no denying the game leaves a lot to be desired, both visually and gameplay-wise. I won't pretend the launch wasn't a disaster either. However, hidden behind the bland environments, the underwhelming gym leaders, and some forgettable legendary Pokémon designs, though not Miraidon and Koraidon, they're both fantastic, it's a story that's gripping, heartfelt, and genuinely special. It feels like, for the first time in a long time, the writers really tried. Despite the flaws, Scarlet became one of my all-time favorite Pokémon games. Allow me to explain as we dive into the narrative. I'm going to start out with the negative parts of this game that I unfortunately cannot ignore in good faith. The biggest, most obvious thing here is the game was not ready to be released. With the amount of bugs and glitches that happened at launch, it needed a lot more time in the oven. The environments are uninspired as well, in my opinion. I cannot tell you any city name other than your main hub of Mesagoza. In Sword and Shield, while I don't remember any of the names specifically, each town had its own unique identity at least. They popped. But in these games, the colors feel a little washed out, so even the unique cities like the Water Gym Leader place feels bland as hell. Half of the other time, I couldn't tell when I switched biomes. The colors are so muted that it all blends together after a while. Most of the gym leaders are so forgettable this generation as well, except for two, but I will praise them later. At least the Elite Four is memorable to me for the most part. Rika has a great design, Poppy being a child is really funny, and Larry is Larry. The last member I don't even remember the name of, but 3 out of 4 is a pass. But I can't say the same for the champion, Gita. She's less memorable than Diantha, and that's fucking saying something. Her team is so uninspired as well, except for the Glamora, which you can't even encounter until you battle her, so that was cool, I guess. But that's the only praise I'm going to give her. Even her design is just not it. It's both messy and bland at the same time. I have no idea how Game Freak managed that. And my personal biggest complaint of all, tell me why the biggest gaming property in the world doesn't have voice acting in their games yet. It's clear that these cutscenes were made with voice acting in mind, but because they're silent, the moment falls flat, especially on a first playthrough. You can't have these super emotional scenes, then have it appear as a text box. That's something for visual novels, not Pokemon. And even visual novels still have some voice acting. I'm reminded by a video by the user Dr. Bonehead in this case. He hired a few voice actors to act out some of the more emotional scenes in the game, and they're 1,000 times better than they were in the base game.
Bud! I know, Bud. Me too.
There is no excuse to not have voice actors in these games anymore. If The Legend of Zelda can do it, Pokemon can do it. Yet, despite these negatives, I can't help but love this game and a lot that comes from the writing. This is easily the best writing in any of the Pokemon games to date. Maybe Black and White can compete, but in my opinion, those games are nowhere near what these games have written. There are 3 main areas I want to tackle when it comes to this game's writing, and that's Arven's arc trying to heal Mabostiff, Team Star, the not-so-villain team, and the finale in Area 0. Let's start with Arven. Arven starts off as an angry, standoffish kid, but over the course of the story, he comes to regard you as one of his closest friends. You battle him briefly in the beginning. A squirrel means nothing when I can burn it to death! But the hook for me wanting to know more about him is that he clearly knows something about Koraidon when we really don't know anything about him. Strange. We find out later that he's a chef. He loves making sandwiches, at least. He's after these rare ingredients called Herba Mystica. Herba Mystica. HM. I see what you did there, Game Freak. Very clever. And he has tasked us to go fight the Titan Pokemon guarding them. So we slap around a crab for a while, then Arven joins the battle, then we slap around the crab some more. We find the Herba Mystica inside the cave that it was guarding, and Arven makes us a sandwich. We give it to Koraidon because who am I to deny my sandwich-powered bicycle lizard? Koraidon gets a power-up. See, they're basically HMs, but you don't need to take up a move slot. Thank God! After we leave, we linger on Arven for a moment. There's clearly something going on here, and I am hooked. So next we slap a worm around, Arven comes, we slap the worm together, you know the drill. It's going to be like this for all the Titan Pokemon, get comfortable with it. But this time, when we're about to fuel our bicycle lizard, Arven freaks out and he tells us the truth. He shows us Mabostiff and tells us how he got hurt very badly. He tried everything. Potions, full restores, even the Pokemon Center couldn't do anything for him. So he read about the Herba Mystica in the Scarlet book and how they have healing properties. So he rationalizes that feeding him a lot of Herba Mystica would heal him completely. At least, he hopes. And now we hope, because...
Of course we need to heal the good boy!
Fuck, now I feel bad for burning your squirrel earlier. I love this quest a lot. We battle more Titan Pokemon and get more Herba Mystica, and Mabostiff gradually gets better and better. He's able to open his eyes, he's able to woof, it's all very heartwarming. Then finally, when we find the last Herba Mystica, we get a gorgeous cutscene. A Pokeball is knocked off of a table, and Mabostiff is able to walk over to it and pick it up with its mouth and bring it to Arven. All that work we put in healed him. I don't think I've ever been this emotional from a Pokemon game. Unfortunately, I cannot ignore the lack of voice acting here. As much as I praise Pokémon Scarlet's ambitious story, the lack of voice acting dampens the scene for me, just a little bit. The scene is still fantastic, and I did genuinely shed a tear. But imagine an actor giving their best in the booth to bring this scene to life. Regardless, I love this side quest. Or is it it's technically the main quest? I don't know why I wrote side quest. Shame on you, writing, Josh! To wrap it up, we get a call from Professor Sada to unlock her secret lab in the lighthouse by her home, and we have to battle against Arven there.
Oh no! The squirrel has grown up! Run for your lives!
The battle isn't easy, but it isn't too difficult. It's a balance that I appreciate. We unlock the laboratory, and Sada is calling us to join her in Area 0. That wraps up Arven's quest. I want to talk about Team Star for a moment, because frankly, in my opinion at least, they get too much hate. Most people go into these games thinking that the team of the game is going to be evil, or at the very least, make your life hell. But not this team. Team Star is full of misunderstood kids. Kids who were bullied, who had no place in the world, but found family with each other. The bosses were brought together that way as well. They were all bullied for various reasons, but were brought together by Cassiopeia. They built the Starmobiles,
I can't burn a car to death!
and planned on attacking the bullies, but the bullies ran away. They ended up being just as scared as the kids they bullied, ironically. And now, the bosses are lost, not knowing what to do anymore other than to set up their base camps. And one of the most tragic elements of this, the entirety of the school faculty resigned after that event. They were so ashamed of letting Team Star ever happen that they couldn't bring themselves to be at the school anymore. Not only were these kids bullied, they were also failed by the adults that were meant to protect them. And then, we come in. Cassiopeia commissioned us to take down all of the bosses and their star cars. Hey, they should have gone with that, that's catchy. Since they feel like it's gotten out of control. We learn that Cassiopeia is actually Penny, our second companion in the game, and we defeat her as the final member, the big boss of Team Star. Man, this music is bumping. Can you tell which track Toby Fox worked on? Yet, even when we defeat her, the other bosses of Team Star welcome her with open arms, despite all that she's done. This ending feels like a Hallmark Christmas movie to me, but I can't help but be moved by it. As a kid who grew up being bullied, this would have been a power fantasy of mine. I'd love to play as a big boss of Team Star.
Let me at him! Let me at him!
Yeah, this ending is very wholesome, and it makes me all warm and fuzzy inside. Also, Clive is actually Director Clavel. I'm sorry that I'm the one that has to tell you. His battle is much harder than Penny's, but I think that's fitting. Penny was never much of a battler, she's more the brains. Overall, I love this team and I love this story. Finally, I want to talk about the finale in Area 0. I loved nearly the whole thing. Unraveling the mystery of why there are prehistoric Pokemon walking around and reading the research notes left behind by Professor Sato was really engaging to me. The deeper we dove into the crater, the more eerie and ominous the atmosphere got as we see giant terrestrial crystals and more hidden labs. Even a second Koraidon is around. Then, the speaker starts to glitch as Sada tries to speak to us again. But once we find her, we learn a hard truth. Professor Sada is dead. The person who's been guiding us for our entire journey was actually an AI. This was wild to me. Pokemon has never really tackled the concept of death, not in this much depth at least. The other example I can think of off the top of my head is when Getsus tried to straight up murder you in Black 2 White 2. When Arven comes in and witnesses his mom glitching out after we defeat her in a battle, the reactions from him are gut-wrenching. The AI trying to apologize on behalf of the real Sada did get to me. Even the final battle, when your Koraidon gets his confidence back and battles the more aggressive one, had me jumping from my seat. Sure, the battle is mostly scripted, but here's a secret about me and this channel. I don't care. It's still cool to me. My one complaint about this end section is I wish Game Freak stuck with the deadbeat mom angle. Arven's dad walked out on both him and Sada when Arven was young, and then Sada buried herself in research as a result, emotionally neglecting Arven and leaving him only to have Mabostiff as his family. You find out that Sada died by jumping in between your Koraidon and the aggressive one, trying to protect your Koraidon. When that becomes relevant is before AI Sada gets transported back into time through the time machine. Yes, there's a time machine. That's how the Paradox Pokemon got here. Don't worry about it. AI Sada talks about how she's a perfect recreation of the real Sada, including the thoughts and feelings. AI Sada mentions how the real Sada truly loved Arven. And while it is heartwarming, I feel like it would have been more impactful if Sada was truly a deadbeat parent, solely focused on her research. That way, Arven's Mabostiff was truly his only family, and he never gets that reconciliation, and I think it would have been way more interesting for Arven's character. But honestly, it's fine. This ending is still heartwarming, and I do still like it. Oh, and to all the streamers playing this game, there is an Ed Sheeran jump scare in the credits. He made the song for the credits of this game, so it's probably copyrighted, so mute your audio there. Rapid fire round, go! 1. I liked a lot of the new Pokemon designs. I think this is one of the better generations design-wise, with my personal favorites being all of the starters, the Take-A-Ton line, Scovillain, Palafin, Goldengo, Tatsiri and Dondozo, Armarouge, Slitherwing, Fluttermane, and Koraidon. 2. Nemona is a better rival than y'all give her credit for. She has a great team, which is challenging to fight, especially in the postgame. She has a very bubbly personality, which I personally really like, and her love for battling is very infectious. I rate her high in my rival rankings. Not as high as Gary or Brendan/May, but she is up there. 3. Koraidon being a sandwich-powered bicycle lizard is really funny, and unlocking his full traversal makes exploring the world very fun. 4. Terrestrialization is this generation's gimmick, and I do like it. Being able to switch your type mid-battle leads to some interesting interactions. Not to mention it can cover your Pokemon's weaknesses. Not as good as Mega Evolution, but way better than Dynamax and Zed moves. Yes, I said Zed, I'm Canadian, don't worry about it. 5. I'll talk about the DLC in a separate video, but the fact that it made the story a bootstrap paradox is so incredibly interesting to me. A bootstrap paradox is when something doesn't have an origin point. Here's the way it works in Pokémon Scarlet. The paradox Pokémon only exist because the Time Machine brought them to the future. The Time Machine was built by the people who knew about the paradox Pokémon as stated in the Scarlet book, but the only way that people know about the paradox Pokémon is because the Time Machine brought them to the future. There's your time loop. 6.
I nearly forgot to talk about the gym leaders I like!
While most of the gym leaders are bland, 2 stick out to me, and that's Iono and Larry. Iono, because I think her whole streamer gym leader shtick is very fun, and her personality of just wanting the views to go up, peeking through occasionally, is very fun to me, and Larry is Larry. He is the most ordinary person in these games, and I love that. He's just your regular office worker who does his 9 to 5, except he's also a gym leader and an Elite Four member. God, I hope he gets paid for all that overtime. Overall, Pokémon Scarlet and Violet are very ambitious games that unfortunately never hit the mark because of its poor launch. I'm not excusing it, don't get me wrong. There is absolutely zero excuse for a game to launch in that poor of a state in 2023. Was it 2023 when this game released? Hold on. It was 2022. Same difference. It's just unfortunate that the game's genuinely great story is largely overlooked because of said poor launch. If Game Freak gave the developers one more year even, it would have been a much more polished game. Even still, I highly suggest picking the game up for yourself one day and experiencing the story. I could explain the story all I want to you, but it won't impact you as hard unless you experience it for yourself. I know these games are kind of a hot button topic, or were when they came out, but frankly, I don't care. I will proudly say that Pokémon Scarlet is one of my all-time favorite Pokémon games. 7 out of 10, I'd rate it higher if it didn't have the bugs at launch. Thank you for watching. I cannot express how grateful I am to everyone for liking and subscribing to so many of my videos. I genuinely did not think I would get this far. I was just wanting to put my opinions out on the internet because, frankly, I don't mind screaming into the void. But the fact that so many people have stayed, and I've even received a lot of very heartwarming compliments like I'm bringing old YouTube back, that means the world to me. I appreciate all of you. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. If you have a different opinion than mine, I do not mind discussing it in the comments. Please, leave your opinions in the comments below. And as always, I will see you the next time we dive into the narrative.